Okay, we are live. So, for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I'll be your dungeon user today. So, this is entry one, or rather, day one, I suppose, of the 2018 RPG-A-Day event. This is something where we answer a different question that was posed by. I actually don't know who created this thing. I see Will Brooks is listed on the list of at the bottom of the actual image for it. So maybe it's Will Brooks, but I honestly don't know. But what this is just it's an annual exercise where you take a day every day in the month of August where you answer a different question about role-playing games, and that's what I'm going to be doing this month. I did it last year, and it was I hit a little bit of fatigue partway through the month, and I'm mindful that I had that happen last year. So this year, I'm going to try and keep my answers very short. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes, and that's it to answer each question. And if I'm running over, which I often do, I will be cutting myself off. So the question for today is, what do you love about RPGs? And I've had a chance to think about this quite a bit before, going or starting this exercise. And it's funny because when I was younger, the assumption I sort of made that the reason I liked role playing games, or the reason that some people I had heard people say, oh, they like telling stories. And I thought for a long time, like, oh yeah, that's absolutely what I enjoy about RPGs. But to be honest, I don't now, like, on reflection on this in the last little while, I don't know if that's actually it, because maybe when I was younger and I was running more heavily structured kind of like things, I've always really over plotted. I mean, I could say that I've intricately plotted, but realistically, it's over plotting because I write more story than I'll ever get to, or more plot elements. The thing is that I'm not really like that stuff's not set in stone ever. So, and I don't write like otherwise. I don't write like I don't write stories or fiction or whatnot. I briefly dabbled in comics, but it's not really. I've not got a story that I absolutely need to tell, and that's not what I really enjoy about role playing games. And having lately drifted more towards sandboxy and kind of like improv style games, and in particular games where the players get to have a lot more narrative input. I'm realizing like really all it is just having a fun time with friends. Like really, I know it sounds really simple, but I mean, looking at the game aspect of the role playing game, I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most. Certainly enjoy the role playing aspect of it as well, because I mean, I would prefer to play a role playing game than I would a board game or a video game or anything like that. Like, I mean, role playing is my favorite activity, it's my favorite pastime, and it's certainly it's the combination of those two things of people taking on roles and me presenting them with challenges as the DM, because I'm usually the DM, and them responding. That's the thing. Whatever happens at the table, that's the stuff I enjoy the most about role-playing games. And tomorrow's question deals with what do you look for in a role-playing game. So I'm going to reach into that a little bit, into that territory a little bit right now. But I mean, even when I'm looking at games, it's stuff that I want to get to the table and think like, okay, what will my players do with this stuff? So what do I love about role-playing games? I love that it gets friends together and you get to, have a fun experience together. I don't, the story element, it's important, I think, but that really depends on your group. You know, it's usually I'm finding it's the smaller things happening. It's the momentary events. It's the interesting scenes. It's the dramatic shifts of the dice roll. Those are the things that stand out the most in terms of what my players have reported as remembering, like, oh yeah, that really stood out. And for me as well too, it's the wow, that happened. It's not that, the plot took a certain it's not that they got to the end of the story that I had planned for them. So I mean, I guess that's the thing. I know I'm really setting it, that or answering the question, or I'm choosing to answer the question in such a way that I'm saying that it's either story versus just experience, or emergent storytelling, or not storytelling, but emergent, story. But I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most. The thing I personally enjoy the most is the emergent story that happens when everyone's sort of making their own decisions in that alchemy of an adventure at the table. That's the stuff I enjoy the most. It's once you're past the character generation, once you're past the thinking about your character, once you think past the planning stages of the campaign, then you're actually in the thick of things and shit's going wild. You know, things are falling off, the car's going at a 200 miles an hour, and bolts are flying off and whatnot. That's the stuff. That's the moment that I love the most about role-playing games, is when you're actually at the table and things are actually happening. That's the stuff I love about it, and that's, I think, something that you really only get from role-playing games. I don't think you get that same shared experience from video games or from board games. Board games, maybe like there's versions of it, but it's really not quite the same. It's just the narrative aspect of role-playing games, regardless of however story heavy or narrative heavy, or how narrative light you're playing. That's what happens in role-playing games, is that there is that story that's emerging. Even if your game is nothing but kicking down doors and killing monsters and stuff like that, there still is something that is happening along the way, and characters are being played, and even if they're just being played as the players, but with no difference between the character's personality and the player's personality, it's still, there's role-playing that's happening there as they're interacting with the fictional environment, and the story that's emerging as a result of that. And that's the stuff that I love the most about role-playing games is, I've mentioned on the channel before that, and to my players, that DM's nothing without their players. And it's 100% true. We can sit around and dream about whatever things we want to run, and things that, rules, mechanics that we want to bring to the table because we think they're interesting. But really, at the end of the day, it's the interaction between the players and the DM that is the thing that I love the most about role-playing games, is that fun, cooperative, but also adversarial. There's an element of adversarial there, in the sense that the DM is playing the enemies and the rest of the world and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I love most about role-playing games, is that magic that happens at the table between the players and the DM, whether that's a real table or a virtual table. So that's my answer for day one. So next up, day two, is what do you look for in an RPG? So I'll look forward to addressing that tomorrow. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can shoot me a tweet at Dungeon Musings, or you can email me at dungeonmusings@gmail.com, and it's Dungeon Musings plural. As well, regular listeners may be aware that we are running a charity fundraising campaign paired with the SOS Children's Villages International charity. So if you did enjoy the video, I encourage you to take a look at the links below. One is to the actual campaign where you can donate, and even $1 is something that will make a difference in some kid's life somewhere. Or if you want to see what the reason for the campaign is, there's a video link as well too, where I give a full description about what the reason for the campaign is. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you again tomorrow for day two. Thanks, and see you soon.